Hello everyone, welcome to the youth webinar. Please feel free to share the webinar link on social media and with your friends and family now. Even if they didn't register, they still have the chance to join. And we will get started. I'm very happy to have you all here. Just before we quickly start, I just want to quickly go through some house rules. I just want you to all know that today's session will be in English only and that this Zoom call is being recorded. So if you wish to watch the webinar or share the recording, this is possible, and you can find the recording on the KAICIID YouTube channel. The link will be posted on the chat. And the second thing is that during this webinar, you're all welcome to participate. So please feel free to write your comments and questions in the chat. For any questions that are addressed to the speakers, there's a Q&A box at the bottom. So just leave your questions there and we'll get back to them after the presentations. So let's get started. As you all know, today is International Youth Day. So it's really a great opportunity to celebrate young people's actions and the initiatives that they are taking, especially to see all the meaningful engagement that's been taking place. So we are really delighted that on this special day, we are hosting this webinar with our partners. First, we're joined with the World Organization of the Scout Movement, and we're also joined by A Common Word Among the Youth. They are two of the leading youth organizations around the world. And in relation to this, our theme for today will focus on health and educational initiatives. This year, this is a really important topic because although COVID-19 resulted in many restrictions for youth, we're seeing many school closures, gatherings are canceled, and different events are being postponed. This didn't stop young people from demonstrating their leadership and their initiative in supporting their local communities. And according to the UN, young people are and will continue to be hugely affected by the pandemic's socioeconomic impacts. But today, the youth are showing their global response and their force in their community outreach, especially during times of crisis. The youth have really turned the challenges of the pandemic into opportunities and have found innovative ways to support their communities and those in need. So to get started, I'd like to ask you all who are attending today's webinar to introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to know where you're from and what your motivation is for joining. I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Yasmin. I'm joining you here from KAICIID in Vienna, where I'm doing my internship, and I have the privilege to moderate today's session. I'll start also with introducing our speakers because I'm joined in great company today. First, we have Monica Tuadros. She is a program manager at Math for Peace, Development and Human Rights. We're also joined by Danny Mulyanto from Indonesia. He's an ACWAY fellow who is working on the Rethinking Youth program at the UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development. We are also joined with Noor El-Huda Mahmoudi, who is joining us from Algeria. Noor is one of the youngest executive board members in the history of the Algerian Muslim Scouts. She is a WOSM Global Youth Representative and is co-leading the human rights advocacy promoting access to education for all. Finally, we're also joined by Pauline Kagiri from Kenya. Pauline is a former Messengers of Peace coordinator in Africa and the former East Africa Youth Secretariat. She is the 2017 Global Messengers of Peace heroine and the founder of Girl Scouts Empowerment Program. Pauline is an active Girl Scout who engages in various Scout activities related to community development projects. So a warm welcome to everyone. And without further ado, let's get started. First, let's hear from Monica. She is a coordinator of an initiative called Promoting Human Solidarity through Interreligious Dialogue in Countering the COVID-19 Pandemic. Her project included an online training course for religious leaders on how they can play an important part in promoting solidarity and peaceful coexistence during the COVID-19 pandemic. So Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yasmina, for this great introduction and moderating the session. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be with you all today. Happy International Youth Day for all young peoples. My name is Monica Tawadros, and I'm the project manager at MAT, as Yasmina said. And I would like to share with you our experience with working with KAICIID Center for promoting young people actions to be responsive to the health crisis that we go till now we are going through it because of COVID-19 pandemic. So let me share my screen with you. I would like first to introduce my organization. Okay. MAD for Peace Development and the Human Rights. It's an Egyptian organization established since 2005 in Cairo. We are a registered organization, and we have different regional and international positions as we are. MAD is a UN major group regional coordinator for North Africa at UN New York, and we have a consultative stage in UN Geneva with the UN ECOSOC. As well, we obtained observer state in the African Committee for the People and Rights in African Union, and we are a member of the General Assembly of ECOSOC in the African Union as well, and we are a member of General Assembly of Analand Foundation for Dialogue and Intercultural Dialogue. We implemented more than 30 projects nationally, regionally, and internationally. Most of them were working with youth and for youth as well. In our organization, we have 6 main programs. First one is related to international mechanisms for protecting human rights. Second one is regarding decentralization and good local governance program. Second or third one is regarding elections and supporting democracy program, social peace and the development of marginalized group program, and lastly, intercultural dialogue and promoting solidarity for peace and development. Quickly, we can go through MAD's vision. MAD seeks to employees a human rights approach and use its mechanisms and tools to promote the values and practices of social peace, development, democracy, good governance, and the human rights. And also, we are looking forward to advocating and mobilizing support to promote peace and SDG goals and to combat all forms of violence, conflict, and injustice. And in all this work, we were glad to work with KAICIID and cooperate on the initiatives that Yasmin mentioned about combating social repercussions of COVID-19 pandemic. So let's go through our initiative. It's called Promoting Human Solidarity Through Interreligious Dialogue in Countering COVID-19 Pandemic Repercussions. This initiative was mainly seeking for raising awareness of religious leaders of the importance of interreligious dialogue to comfort COVID-19 pandemic implications, as well as we were targeting on those religious leaders, the young people, and to have the balance in the gender representation in our project. We are also targeting the interfaith youth, so we can integrate females in our project. And second target and objective in this initiative, addressing stigma, social stigma, and the incitement of hate, especially among the vulnerable people during the COVID-19 pandemic. So mainly our target group and the people we were working with are interfaith youth. So we targeted 20 religious and interfaith young people as a direct beneficiaries. So we prepared a training program for them, and then they, by themselves, they can promote more initiatives to be socially responsive. As the direct beneficiaries through these initiatives that promoted and implemented by the young people who were integrating in the first training program, managed to reach to 5,000 persons to be as indirect beneficiaries of our initiative. I will go quickly to be on time. For activities, as I told you, online, we have an online training course for religious leaders that learning them, the raising awareness about COVID-19 and how we can combat the misinformation in this pandemic and rumors, because like people get panicked because of incorrect or like misinformation that we have through social media, but then they know how to combat also hate speech through counter narrative campaigns as the religious leaders and young people at the same time, especially focusing on around the small communities they belong to. And after they go as outcomes of this training course, they managed to working for different initiatives that they implemented by themselves, as in for establish the initiative, finding the ideas and implementing it and following it as well. So they managed to have a Facebook page to raise awareness, and I can share all of the links with you, so you can check the training material, or even you can check the papers and all information. You can go through it. The page is called Prevention First, الوقاية أولا. And then we had a webinar for raising awareness and to have a discussion with representatives from religious institutions with those young people, and with also it was open for the public. And they were doing papers on the right hygiene and health information related to COVID-19, social stigma during COVID-19 pandemic, and mechanisms for combating it. As well, they have a hopeful message, and together through 2 videos, one for raising awareness named Together Against Social Stigma, and second one called Hopeful Messages. So they recorded hopeful messages by themselves, sharing experience from people who are around, had COVID-19 before, and how they can overcome this pandemic, and being supporting for each other around. So I can leave my presentation on the chat, so you can go from the website, the project's website. You can find all the information about the training material, the lecture that we have in our online training course, the pages, the papers, and videos as well. And lastly, I want to close my presentation by saying that arise and awake and stop not until the goal is reached. Today, as a young people, we have a lot to do for our community, our future, and you can never push ahead in life except if you have a faith in your capacities. You can never get anything from God in the event that you don't show any drive. Happy International Youth Day. We can be influential over social impact. We can change our reality to have a better future for all humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you for sharing this excellent presentation. It's really nice to hear about the success that you've managed to reach. You mentioned 5,000 beneficiaries, and thank you for highlighting the importance of being aware of misinformation and hate speech. It's very interesting. Next, I will turn to Pauline. She will present on her ongoing projects based on gender-based violence, where she focuses on female genital mutilation under the Messengers of Peace. So Pauline, please feel free to tell us about your projects.
Please unmute yourself, Pauline.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pauline Kagiri from Kenya. I'm really excited to share the excitement initiatives that are going on here in Kenya during this day. So before we start, I think I would like to inspire you with one of my videos that I took back in 2017 when I started my project. Kindly please share the video.
Pauline Kagiri. I'm from Kenya. My name is Pauline Kagiri. I'm from Kenya. After having this difficult issues that happen in the community I come from, especially in terms of FGM, that is female genital mutilations, early abortions, girls getting off marriage at 9 years old, to old people, it's really discriminating for us as girls. They don't give them that chance to experience education, having fun as young as they are.
And you, as me as a person, as a scout, who is educated, I want to see somebody else having that experience of education.
After trying to go to them, talking about the situations that are happening on the ground, it's responding positively, and I'm proud that they are doing something in return.
So be an inspiration to someone. Make sure we embrace gender equality, and we create a better world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I hope that video has really given you that motive of starting our presentation based on female genital mutilation. I will start with the history of the project. Basically, the project started back way in 2012, whereby I received a report on FGM practice in the community I come from, where most girls experience painful culture practice, which made most girls run away from their respective homes for rescue. Other experience menstruation issues, whereby they were unable to afford sanitary towels to sustain them in school. So they end up dropping out of school. Other cases were based on child marriage. Girls were married off at the age of 9 years to an older man of the age of 60 years. So I took this is whereby it's a situation that such sad situation that can be experienced by such girls who don't have the right to speak their minds. We took the initiative to educate and speak on their behalf for both the girls and the women in the community. And in this noble cause, we used to contribute as little as $2 USD monthly to enable to buy necessities, e.g. napkins, the sanitary towels, innerwears, and books for them to be able to have a proper education. So I'll start by my presentation based on the definition of what is female genital mutilation. Please click next. Next, please. Why Girls Empowerment Initiative? 1, because girls experience painful culture practice, which makes most girls run away. They experience menstruation issues, unable to afford sanitary towels, and so they end up dropping out of schools. Also, girls get at the age of 9 years get older, they get married to older people. So that is why we had this initiative to ensure we empower the young girls from the community. Next, please. What is female genital mutilation? Female genital mutilation, it comprises of all procedures that involve partial and total removal of external female genitalia and other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. And in this case, the practice is mostly carried out by traditional circumcisers who often play other central roles in communities, such as attending birth child in many settings of health. Next, please. Another one in? I think I've explained that one based on what the definition of how they are being practiced in the community, and I think I'll address on the disadvantages of the health risk. Kindly, we shall look on the disadvantage of health risk. We have 2 types of health risks. We have short-term and long-term what you call the health risk. First, we have the short-term health risk, which is based on severe pain. This is where the cutting of the nerve ends the sensitive genitalia tissues, causes extreme pain, We have non-proper anesthesia, which is used and when used is not always effective. Healing period is also painful. The girls experience excessive bleeding. Also, we have what you call pain and infections that are very crucial, especially when the girls or the women undergo the mutilation process. Kindly next. Okay, we have what you call a type 3 female FGM, that is most excessive procedure to a procedure of long duration. Hence, the intensity and duration of pain may be more severe. The healing period is also prolonged and is justified accordingly. So these are the shortest terms of health risk of FGM. Kindly next. We have some points I think I'll add on basically on the long-term health risk. We have infections. These may spread after the use of contaminated instruments, whereby where the girls undergo through the mutilation process, they use one tool to kind of mutilate all the girls and can bring a lot of infections for them. We also have what you call the urination problem. The urination problems, this may include urinary retention and pain passes the urine. This is due to tissue swelling, pain, or injury to the urethra. Next, please. Next, please. Okay. Based on what you call the health risk of FGM, I think I've mentioned a few as much there. We're trying to kind of kill the time. So I'll kind of talk about menstruation problems, especially the results from the obstruct of the vaginal opening. This may lead to pain, menstruation, irregular menses, on difficulty in passing of their menstruation cycle. Also, when you talk of painful urination, is due to obstruct of the urethra and recurrent urinary tract infections. So these are kind of the pains the young girls and women go through when they undergo the mutilation process, which can be a health risk for their lives, especially for the girls. Most experience even death. Others experience a lot of excessive bleeding, especially when they give birth. So when you kind of trying to kind of educate them in their health risk in terms of what happens in their body. So this is a way of kind of educating them the process on when we talk about the mutilation process for them. It is kind of giving them a way of trying to kind of risk them away from being mutilated to save lives. So we're going to talk about benefits or what you call the benefits of the project. One, we kind of have advocacy. This is what we're strengthening policies and legal framework for gender equality and women access to resources. Another one is to increase participation and leadership roles. Another one is to provide strength to them and build a culture of diversity, and also to achieve gender equality in a society that is heavily dominated by men. We always have what you call the culture diverse communities. Women and girls from culturally diverse communities face additional barriers to education that results to racism and discrimination. There is lack of cultural responsibility and service, lack of access to information about their rights, and also language barrier. So when you talk of what you call the risk, due to culture practice, we are looking forward to kind of break the norm of FGM, practice and embrace women and girls into the society. We have the capabilities. When talk about the capabilities in FGM, it's to able to live with or towards others, and recognize and show concerns for their women and girls, to engage in various forms of social interactions, to be able to imagine the situation of another by eradicating culture practice which does not favor the rights of both men and women, and also to embrace gender equality. I will talk about the engagement. Kindly please. Next. The engagement, that is taking actions as scouts. First of all, we engage in schools visit, which also it's a fact findings. So that's the engagements that we do. Also, we empower girls through gender equality education. We talk to girls about their roles in creating awareness of such harmful practice. We engage the girls on one-on-one talk session where they share their experience. We engage them on life skills sessions where we try to bring out their confidence. Most of these activities and sessions are done in open doors sessions where they feel free to talk and have that confidence in them. We engage them in creating awareness in their communities, engage their girls on menstruation health education or talks, and also using scouting to impact confidence and skills on the girls from the communities. We also donate sanitary towels and undergarments to girls from harsh culture practicing communities. I will talk on my last point, I'll talk on the roles of as scouts. What are the roles as scouts? They are creating awareness in their communities. We are petitioning policies to curb such harmful practices. Also, we educate their communities on dangers of such practice. And also the last one I'll talk is hold discussions with elders and find amicable solution of ending the culture practice on female genital mutilation. So these are kind of the points that we talk. And also we engage men and women as scouts, of using scouts to increase confidence and develop life skills on girls from the community. These are the kind of the fact findings and the background. You can see photos of the scouts engage, the girls engaging with a male figure is to kind of share their experiences, what they do, what they go through as girls. So it's a way of kind of supporting, we involve the men on board because it's a way of supporting our own sisters to play a role of kind of being a voice of the voiceless. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you for highlighting a women's issue that's been in the way of them accessing their human right to education. And thank you for telling us about all the steps that you are taking and all the effort that you are putting in. Next, we are going to hear from Danny. Danny has been engaging on the issues of youth, interreligious and intercultural dialogue, peace, education, and social cohesion for more than 10 years. So Danny, please tell us more about your initiatives.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let me go to full screen. Yeah, so I'm Danny from Indonesia. Happy International Youth Day, first of all. And it's, I'm really grateful to be with you now and sharing a bit from my experience, my encounter. It is not really something related to what I am doing as a professional, but as an ACWAY fellow, this is something that I do in my spare time. So I would like to provide a kind of a little bit helicopter view, kind of a macro analysis, instead of giving like one example of initiative as previous speakers. And I believe it is something really relevant to this webinar. So that's why I bring this topic, as well as to the upcoming event that we are going to have, the Interfaith Youth Forum of G20. And the title here is Interfaith Youth in the Era of Pandemics, a case study of Indonesia. I do not define interfaith here narrowly, so it can be used interchangeably with interreligious or something like that. And of course, there is also definition of what is youth. Later on, I'm going to discuss a bit. And at the bottom line, interfaith youth, it is more like works of interfaith who involve youth as the main actor or as the supporting actors. It can be anything. So it's quite a broad definition. This is the example of activity we are doing during the pandemics. So you can see everyone is wearing a mask here. So young people here, interfaith young peacemakers, they are visiting a temple in Indonesia as a process of interfaith dialogue. Of course, it's not easy, but we managed to do it. It is a program called Peace Train. So we do traveling by train and then visiting different interfaith communities across Indonesia. A little bit background. So in Indonesia, youth is defined as 16 to 30 years old. So it's quite different with UN definitions based on the law in Indonesia. And we do have like almost a quarter of the populations in this category, 16 to 30 years old. So it's quite huge, with a slight, compositions more on the male side. And of course, predominantly Muslims, almost 90%, and small numbers of Protestant Catholicisms, as well as others like Buddhism, Confucianism, etc. And we are pretty religious communities. It is according to a Pew survey in 2020. Of course, there are a lot of, issues here in terms of the dynamics between interfaith harmony and interfaith tensions on conflicts. In terms of historical, cultural, for example, we are an archipelago with a lot of ethnic groups, and then later on we were quite a huge Hindu and Buddhism empire, and then Islam came in, and now the majority is Muslim. And then, of course, we do have, Christianity from the West. And then, in terms of legal and policy aspects, of course, it's pretty complex. We are pretty secular, but we have a kind of a principle called Pancasila. It is basically belief in God, referring more in the monotheism, but we don't have a kind of a state religion. And there is a kind of a debate between a religion and also belief. Religions, or in Indonesia, it's called agama. We only acknowledge 6 official, quote unquote, 6 official religions, which are Islam, Protestant, Catholicism, and then Buddhism, Hinduism, and Confucianism. Outside that, the government do not formally acknowledge, and they are categorized as a belief, including indigenous belief, and some, other belief outside major religions like Sikhism and then Baha'i, etc. So this kind of tensions is still, coming out until now. And of course, it deals a lot with social politics and economy situations. Social injustice, for example, there is a stereotype that some religious groups holds the economy dominantly, something like that. So that's why violent conflicts have erupted in some areas. And then polarized identity politics also happen all over areas in Indonesia. Relating to the COVID-19 pandemics, it's also a huge problem. If you see the table, you can Google it. It's 3.75 million cases, and more than 100,000 deaths. So I think almost those who are including country with most heavily affected by COVID-19 pandemic. So that's why in this case, interfaith activity does matter in Indonesia under this kind of circumstances. And I would like to bring you some recent development, at least in the last 10 years. So, for example, there is an increasing interest of youth toward interfaith issues. Of course, there are other issues that are, more appealing to youth, like employability, popular culture, of course, like K-pop, etc. And then other social issues like environment, and then poverty, etc. Interfaith dialogue sometimes can be seen as problematic and even dangerous because people are afraid of being converted or being not pure again toward his or her own religions. And then, but young people, of course, are more open and more bold in terms of expressing their own belief and engaging with the others who are different from them. Thanks to the information and communication technology, as well as the global exchange. The trend also from informal, non-formal education to formal education, but still not yet happening in a real sense. But there is kind of, some trends in this case. Increasing role of youth as well, from the supporting role to the main role, but still not fully happen. And diversifying activities from the inter to intra-faith engagements. For example, in terms of Muslim communities, the dialogue between Ahmadi, between Shia, between Sunni are happening more often. And by the way, the most dominant religious sects in Indonesia is Sunni, I think almost 90% as well. And then from words to actions, usually just, like religious comparative study, but it's more now more action taken together. And from religion-centric to broad issues, so like a gender, and then like environment, and then like a mental health also becomes, kind of a new trend at the moment. These are some examples. I take some pretty well-known communities or organizations work on interfaith issues. The first one, for example, this one is Indonesia Conference on Religion and Peace. I just give you an example of activities that involve young people. For example, this is during the World Harmony Week. This is a kind of a Zoom event. And then, of course, during the pandemic, in terms of fund donations, they managed to gather more than 1 billion rupiah, Indonesia rupiah, or around 300,000 USD. And then many other activities involving young people, including offline activity on the right, a visit to a kind of a Buddhist temple. And then this is Gus Durian, named after Indonesia president, and he is very famous in terms of interfaith engagement. I think the founder, Alisa Wahid, also one of the KAICIID fellow. And then also that's why also they engage closely with young people. Although if we pay attention closely, there are also a little bit differences from the previous ICRP. Because they involve a lot, some adults or seniors to quote unquote facilitate or encourage young people. And for example, they also managed to do a kind of 10 days event fully online. I think this is quite kind of achievement because online activity usually is pretty tiring, exhausting, and not easy to really control, especially in terms of engagement with the participants. This is the issue of hoax, misinformation, disinformation. So they call it infodemic during the pandemic. also one of the biggest issue during the pandemic. Another is Global Peace Foundations. This is, I think, not a local organizations. They have, some branches in other countries. It is from South Korea, but they do have a kind of a branch in Indonesia. They also work with youth, and they also use the interfaith engagement approach to promote, peace in their work. So, for example, on the left, they, entail the interfaith movement with the climate change, and then the right one with the kind of a more popular culture, which is, cycling, because cycling is pretty famous during the pandemic. So cycling with the physical health as well as the mental health. This is also part of, interfaith activities that they do. And then this is youth-led, organizations or community. They also have a lot of activities during the pandemic. For example, the left one is a national training for facilitator. There's also 3 days event. Everything is done through Zoom. And then scriptural reasoning between the indigenous groups and the those religious believers from, quote unquote, from the outside Indonesia. And the red one is a virtual hangout. It's pretty, youth friendly using a Google Meet. And then I would like also to bring to you some activities, also some campaign done by the governments. We can see here, for example, the governments during the pandemics also try to use the interfaith activity as one of their, programs. For example, the left one is the prayer for humanity. You can see the face of the president and the vice president, and unfortunately, all of them are men, including the religious leaders, and all of them are seniors, adults. So youth somehow a little bit, sidelined in this context, including in terms of the campaigns, pray from home. These kind of things also, they don't really involve young people. It's quite pity, actually. This is the Ministry of Education. I think they are more youth-friendly compared to the Ministry of Religious Affairs, but they don't really use the jargon of interfaith because I think they that kind of work area is more taken by Ministry of Religious Affairs. So they use a kind of another jargon like respect toward diversity, and then tolerance. This one is promoting tolerance using music and songs, and they work with influencers, with musicians, etc. And then Ministry of Youth and Sports, unfortunately, also do not really use the jargon in terms of interfaith, and they actually also pretty senior oriented, adult oriented. So young people are not really engaged as intense as I think it's supposed to be. They also, for example, in this case, they use the perspective of disability in terms of building the dialogue. And the red one is this is the national meeting on youth. But if we see here, all of them are not young people. So it's also quite a paradox in this case, how they engage with youth in terms of youth empowerment. So some conclusions. If we would like to divide the interfaith youth, can be divided into 2: youth-led and non-youth-led. There's a definition you can Google by yourself. So which one is youth-led, which one is not youth-led? Some the interfaith youth activities involve humanitarian assistance, money, staple food, basic needs, donation, for example, campaign, public advocacy, capacity building, and community development. And the trend is from the offline to online, or still some offline activities. Gender-sensitive awareness, but less for government organizations. if we see the table here, the youth-led, youth as the center of intervention compared to the non-youth-led, youth only as a part of the whole intervention. And then youth-led usually non-material assistance, but non-youth-led pretty strong in terms of providing or donate or a kind of a gathering material assistance. It is because non-youth-led usually has a more network in terms of reaching to the specific groups. Youth-led is more a small group or community-based, and they are more youth-sensitive or contextual. Non-youth-led usually address youth plus the other audience. But overall, I would like to say that even during the pandemic, the youth, interfaith youth shows resilience and empathy, which is a kind of embodiment and crystallizations of interfaith works. So I would say that during the pandemics, the interfaith youth managed to cope with the situations and do their own, work even better or even more intense than before the pandemic. And I would like to also a little bit say this one, the work that I am doing as professional. I would like to, if you are interested, there are, a kind of a social emotional learning course, Youth Reaching Peace, and also the dialogue independently organized, talking across generations on education. Please do contact me if you are interested. And we are very excited to welcome the Young Interfaith Forum, G20 Youth Interfaith Forum with the title Interfaith Activism and Dialogue as Healing. I think with this, I end my presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for sharing a very detailed account and this case study, given the very unique makeup and the diversity that's in Indonesia. Finally, I'd like to move on to Noor. Noor is a WOSM Global Youth Representative, and she will present how through her projects and initiatives, she's able to advocate for better human rights and access to education for young people. So Noor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. I was inspired by all the projects presented. So, hello everyone. Happy International Youth Day for all youth and for those who believe in youth. So first of all, allow me to share this video with you.
We as young people should advocate for the causes we believe in. More than 40% of the population of the world is made of people under the age of 25.
As a generation, we have such a fiery passion for the issues that are relevant today.
Our generation has more access to information than ever before.
We understand well some of the challenges that are in the community, what the community needs.
As youth, we have to advocate for issues that matters for us, because no one will do it on our behalf.
When it comes to youth matters, there is no other better choice than the youth themselves.
Advocating for the things that matter the most to us is not only an option, but a responsibility.
We are the present and future. We need to raise our voice.
All we need is the voice of the young people to be heard.
We as young people have to get involved with the decision-making process because it's going to impact our life and the world we live in.
If we speak together, our voice will be heard.
Our ability to express and to discuss and to influence some of the global conversation around these issues today is a core part of our being an active citizen and a core part of us being Scouts.
So, hello again. As Yasmin said, my name is Noor and I'm joining you from Algeria. I'm one of the 12 World Scouting Youth representative you just saw in the video.
Hey guys, Bear Grylls, Chief Ambassador for World Scouts.
So, who are these young people? Well, the World Scouting Youth representative are the face of our movement, representing a network of 54 million scouts around the world, from peace to human rights to SDGs, The youth representatives advocate on behalf of Scouting in a number of thematic areas and on many different stages to make sure the voice of the largest youth organization is heard in the right places. Well, you might ask yourself, why do we have to engage? Why do we have to speak up? Well, the answer is simple, because no one else will stand up for the rights of young people if we don't. Therefore, we need to claim our rights and to advocate for youth engagement, not only for the sake of young people inclusion and development, but because young people have a right to engage in decision-making because of their agency and expertise. Let me give you an example. In December, and thanks to 3 ladies from the team you just saw, as WOSM, we were elected to the NGO's UNESCO Liaison Committee, and there become the focal point on youth. Now, on the occasion of the celebration of the 75th anniversary of UNESCO, we used the opportunity to launch an active call for NGOs to meaningfully engage young people in their daily work. And we are coordinating the process of producing a position paper on youth and advocacy strategy, together with 50 of the NGOs associated with UNESCO. Pretty cool, right? But enough talking about my team. I want you to join me to remember what happened last year. Last year, young people from all across the world were often on the forefront of local responses to the pandemic, reaching out to the most vulnerable, whilst at the same time, those young people themselves were severely impacted by the negative effects caused by COVID-19, such as the pause of their education, loss of employment, and resulting anxiety and mental health issues. If this will prove anything, it will be the right proof that young people are always part of the solution and can be agents of change in their communities. Therefore, as we adjust to the new normal, we as Scouts stand up for the right of young people to be equal partners in taking decisions that will affect them today and tomorrow. Youth should be provided a seat at the table to ensure their needs will be addressed in the building back process. Actors at all levels must include young people in a meaningful way in their decision-making and actions, including process of leading up to the decision, planning and implementation, as well as monitoring and evaluation. Lastly, what I want to highlight is it is important to ensure the safety of youth advocates. Therefore, relevant measurements must be taken in cooperation with NGOs and the respective governments. At the end, I just want to share with you one thought. We always hear that young people or this generation is the future. But let's be honest with ourselves. The future should be decided now. Therefore, people in power should understand that young people are ready now to take action now and should not be just ignored. Thank you so much, and back to you, Yasmin.
Thank you, Noor. Thank you for such inspiring words. Given that everyone has been affected by this pandemic, it's really important to note that the youth have really been impacted in very specific ways, and that the youth really do deserve a seat on the table when it comes to these discussions. But before we address questions from the audience, and in a spirit from learning from one another, we thought maybe this time it would be nice to exchange some questions among the speakers as well. So I'd like to ask Monica first. Would you have a question for Pauline?
Yeah, first I would like to thank Pauline for her presentation and the initiative. Actually, it's a great work, and I congratulate her for this impressive efforts. My question only about the evaluation and how you measure the impact of these activities and projects on the reality, how you measure the change that have happened through these activities and how they like change the mentality and the life of those girls. Especially like I admire the intersection and inter-levels that you are working on, because you are working on the girls themselves in schools and the policy makers and like different families. So you are working on different levels. And also the bottom-up approaches that you are following in the educational process and raising awareness. Also, it's very, very good. So my question is only how you measure the change that happened or the impact of the activities and projects on the reality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Monica, for my project. Basically, when you talk about measurements on impact, it has not been an easy task to start such a project. Coming from a culture that is strongly believes in and having these norms of their beliefs that a girl cannot say no. So when you talk of measurements, we involve them with educative programs. In terms of educating them on adolescents' health, educating of the reproductive health. So through the process, we'll know that there's some changes that goes through the initiative. And also we involve other like outdoor activities. This is to strengthen their confidence in terms of creating groups of climate action changers. We have what you call baby food for life projects for the young girls. It's one way of weighing their what you call the capabilities and to showcase their what you call their confidence and their strength in them, so that they can be able to kind of share what they have learned. I think that is one of the kind of measurements we have be able to kind of succeed since when we started.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Pauline. Now I'd like to ask you, Pauline, if you would have a question for Danny.
Basically, I'd like to applaud Monica for such an success of the initiative and actually the growth of numbers, especially for 30 projects and a group of over 5,000. It's kind of huge. And I think I'm just going to applaud. I don't have a question, but to applaud of her success on it. And I'm going to follow. I think I'll follow on the links of his own presentation, so that I can scoop something from there and be able to see how I can continue learning from what she has already shared.
Okay, thank you. Now, Danny, would you have a question for Noor?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. I'm really amazed with the spirit that you bring, Noor, about the equal partner to take decision. I think that's really, really wonderful. My question, though, how you can increase youth role or contribution to social change, in particular in terms of policy making, and in a society where hierarchy or seniority really, really emphasized. Do you have any specific strategy to break this kind of barrier? Thank you.
Thank you so much, but like I really would appreciate if you repeat the last part of the question, because like I lost you.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, basically, some societies, they really, really have a kind of seniority or hierarchy in socially or culturally. So that's why when you say equal partner to take decisions, how you can increase youth visibility, youth role, youth contribution to this policy making for social change.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, coming from an Arab African country, I totally agree when you say seniority problem. Well, the only thing we always do, and it succeeds sometimes, is like to keep pushing. We only need one person to make the first step, and everything will be changed. Like in governmental places, or let's see, we need just one person to break the whole rules, and the other will be like following. Yasmin at the beginning said that I'm the first young female in the board of the Algerian Muslim Scouts, and this organization is more than 18 years old, right? And for long times, only people for more than 35 were able to make it into the board. But since 2019, when I joined, it become easier for other young people. It become easier to show yourself, to speak, knowing that there is someone already who make it, so you can do it. One role model will create the change we are looking for. I hope that this answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dani, and thank you, Noor, for your response. Now, Noor, I'd like to ask you if you have a question for Monica.
Yes, sure. So first of all, this is the first time I hear about your organization, and like it's amazing. I'm super glad that I heard about it. I know how the religious diversity can be a little bit critical in Egypt. So I would love to know what are the main obstacles that are facing the work of your organizations. And if you allow me one more tiny question, do you think that this association or this experience of the organization can be replicated in other MENA regions, in other countries from the MENA region?
Thank you, Noor, for your questions and comments as well. For the first question about obstacles that we faced, actually, when we talk about the critical situation of religious diversity, so it can be applied on the reality on the ground, but when you are working on the level of the institutional level, it's a little bit different. So we cooperated and have a partnership with the religious institutions. So the religious leaders in these institutions can forward the participants to us, and I think also it's a part of the program itself to promote the religious diversity and to promote the dialogue between religious and interfaith youth during the program. So if you're able to like eliminate the gap between different mentalities and different cultures, religious backgrounds as well, to collect them as the same room on the same table to discuss about the social issue and the social risk like COVID-19, is a little bit successful in itself. Okay, so this is regarding the obstacles when how we can overcome about the critical situation of religious diversity. So when you are working on institutional level and then bring the people or young people to be in the same room, so you are first learning them the dialogue and accepting each others and so on. So you promote inside themselves indirectly the tolerant culture and culture of dialogue. And regarding the second question about sharing experiences, if you are talking about the institution or experience of organizational experience itself, so yes, we can share, and we have partners on different countries in MENA region, I think most of them. So we can share our experience with them, and if they need any support, we are willing to provide. But if you are talking as well on the initiative, you mean the experience of this initiative and how we can work on that level and get these initiatives as an outcome from our project. So as well, I share the link of website. So it's a kind of transparent information sharing experience. We put everything on this website. So any organization in any country over the whole world can check and have the materials. And if you need any translation, because everything in Arabic on the website, so we can check if we can translate it in English or not. But I think in MENA region, most of them like speak Arabic, and in case they need translation, we can provide a translated version. I hope I answered your questions.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Noor. Thank you all for sharing. Clearly, there's so much to learn from one another. I'll move on now to the questions that we have from our attendees. The first question is addressed to Danny. And one of our webinar attendees is asking that they want to start a youth initiative involving interreligious dialogue in their communities to help overcome difficulties and stigmas caused by the pandemic. They're asking if you have any advice on where they can start this initiative and how it's best to do so.
Yeah, thank you so much for the questions. I think this is very, very relevant and important. My advice is start small and start easy. And young people are very, very familiar with social media, with the cyberspace. And this is a kind of opportunity for you, how you can play a role in terms of, distributing or disseminating a peaceful narrative, a dialogue, culture through social media or through cyberspace. And I believe young people are also more tech savvy, so you can try to build a kind of, let's say, experiment or trying to reach those who are different with you. Discussions, honest and frank discussions, as well as constructive engagement with them, and utilizing the social media as a platform. That's probably one of the most easiest thing that you can do. Meanwhile, you can also counter hate speech that's very, very prevalent at the moment through your own way, trying to build a kind of a narrative, either it's kind of a counter narrative or alternative narrative. Basically, just fill the social media platform, your social media feeds with positive narrative as much as possible. I think that's a one easy step.
Thank you very much, Danny, for this helpful advice. We have one more question from our attendees, and this time I think this question is addressed to everyone. So I'll start by asking the question. The question is, youth are very often really creative. And what are in your opinion, is the most important values and skills religious community leaders should learn from the youth? So Noor, would you like to get started?
I'm sorry that I have to ask this once again, but I lost your voice also. If you can repeat it, I will appreciate it.
Sure. The question is, youth are very often really creative. What, in your opinion, is the most important values and skills that religious community leaders should learn from the youth?
Well, they were very good questions, but first things comes to my mind now is acceptance. To be honest, we sometimes hear about all this religious meeting of the big religious leaders, but at the end of the day, they just can't agree on at least one thing. While when you attend youth forums, youth exchange, you will find young people from every part of the world. And the common thing between them is acceptance. They accept each other, they appreciate that diversity, and they try to learn. Instead of just focus on the things that are different, they try to find things that are in common and celebrate that. This is what came to my mind, this one thing. So back to you, Yasmin.
Thank you. That's a very good point. So thank you for sharing it. Monica, would you have a response to this as well?
Yeah, sure. I think flexibility, because young people are always flexible, could have a discussion, accept other point of view, and can adapt to the changeable society and circumstances that we have in all cases. While sometimes the religious leaders are very strict, they need just to follow the rules, give the orders, or follow the orders, and just like they have one way for things to happen. But for young people, it's always different. They have their own innovative ways. They can adapt to different paths to go through it. And so I think flexibility is very important to be adaptive to different circumstances that we have in our communities.
Thank you, Monica. Especially today, flexibility has become even more important. Pauline, I'll move on to you.
Good points out there. I'd like to add, they need to believe on themselves. They have they have the energy that takes to change the world to become a better place. So they need to remember that their future, their youth is the hope of the future. That is what I can say.
Thank you, Pauline. And Danny, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. I will have two words. The first one is progressiveness, and then the second one is boldness, as reflected as well by Noor. So young people have this kind of characteristics, trying to see the situation as it is, to see the problem, and breaking out from the comfort zone. I think that's what senior they sometimes really into their own comfort zone, and they do not really understand about the changing situations. It is something quite dangerous actually, and something that young people definitely can contribute.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everyone, for sharing such inspiring points. We're coming towards the end of the session, so I'd like to ask each speaker to take another minute and share a final message with us, or a main takeaway of the conversation today, if they'd like to. Or maybe they can tell us if someone doesn't know where to start, but wishes to take better action for the future, if you have any advice for them or something you'd like to highlight. Everyone would love to hear your points. Noor, would you like to start?
Yes, I just want to say that in order to make change, you need to start somewhere. And to start, you need to be fully informed. So you just need to search and understand what's happening around you, and do, even if it was small things, because like big changes are the accumulation of small changes. So whether you start in your local community, your city, your neighborhood, then you can move for your country, regional to international level, it will come. Just believe in yourself, and the world will eventually believe in your ability to change things for the better.
Thank you, Noor. Monica, any advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, only one sentence, like the youth are the youthful firearms of the nation, who will convey the new change to lead another changed life for better. So believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities, work hard to impact on the communities, and achieve a change that can lead to a better life for all people.
Thank you, Monica. Pauline, would you like to share any advice?
I'd like to say, aspire to inspire. I'll finish the quote that says, a few hearts, a whole, sincere, and energetic men and women can do more in a year than a mob in a century. So this goes to the youths. Remember, this is for you. You are the future of today and tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. Very inspiring. And Danny, over to you.
Very brief one. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep contributing. Happy International Youth Day.
Thank you all. Happy International Youth Day to all of you. And what a great note to close this webinar. It was a pleasure having all of you here. And if you missed the conversation or parts of the conversation, please go ahead and check out our YouTube channel where this webinar will be. I'd like to thank our speakers. Thank you all for being here and for sharing such important points. I'd like to thank our partners, WOSM and ACWAY, and especially I'd like to thank our audience for participating and for being part of this event. We hope to see you soon at the next one. Keep an eye on our social media and on the KAICIID website for new announcements. Happy International Youth Day, and I hope you all have a very great day. Thank you.